And with given your long experience in this this business, what is it that's drawn you into this controversy now?
Well, I was drawn into this controversy way back in the late 70s when I became the chairman of the board of the Tennessee Valley Authority, and we had what I would call an armada of nuclear power plant units that were under construction. And the cost overruns became so horrible that just purely on the basis of economics, my vote shut down 8 of these 1,000 megawatt reactors while they were being constructed. The costs were that much out of line. So my first exposure to nuclear power as an executive was back then, and I found that in order to make them meet even the NRC's safety standards, they just cost too much. And we were better off with conservation, and we had a huge energy efficiency program that was cheaper and quicker and far cleaner than nuclear power. And then I moved on to manage the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and the people voted to shut down the nuclear reactor there, and I had the job of burying the plant. It supplied 50% of SMUD's power supply, and we were able to replace it without rate increases, and Sacramento is now one of the better utilities in the country with reasonable rates, and life was a whole lot better after nuclear power. But I think the thing that really changed my mind was when I visited Chernobyl 5 years after the accident in 1991, and I saw a monument with the name of villages on it that were dead, and went out there and talked to a few people that were still hanging around. And when I talked to them about the possibility of solar power, they actually cried with joy that there was an alternative. And I met the mothers of the poor kids that were marching around on May Day, 5 days after the accident, and were exposed because the Soviets didn't tell them about it. And I realized that this was a monster. And so today I feel that we got the final wake-up call at Fukushima, and that we need to phase out and shut down the 104 reactors in America. I will put it very bluntly, we need to kill them before they kill us. You have to understand the nuclear industry and the people that run it. To them, they have, and I say this advisedly, they have a religious belief in nuclear power. So facts don't interfere. You know, a religion is belief. They believe in nuclear power. And I tell you how it came about. It started off as a guilt trip. We dropped the bomb in World War II, and President Truman said right after he found out about it, he said, well, we got to make something good out of this evil. And so the whole nation started off with civilian nuclear power plants as a gigantic guilt trip. And so we overlooked the dangers inherent in it, and we thought we were doing something good. There was no other alternative to coal back then. We hadn't harnessed the sun yet and hadn't developed wind power. And so we got into this thing sort of oblivious to the fact that there is no peaceful atom, that they all lead toward the bomb. Otherwise, we wouldn't be trying to talk Iran into not building a nuclear power plant, because we know that once you learn how to enrich uranium, you enrich it a bit more and you make bombs. So, but we were oblivious to all that. And so the Edison company and the people in that power plant, they believe it's safe. And I use the word believe advisedly. Because I've been down there in the nuclear power plants and talked to people. And especially in the Tennessee Valley, where we made the first bomb. It's almost like oil in Houston, but there's a tendency, I'm formerly a civil engineer, and there's a tendency of most engineers to really believe that the technology that they have built is safe. And so you're up against folks that are not subject to just rational thought process, because they have a belief that's religious in nature in their technology, and it just slides off. It's kind of like back when Kennedy ran against Nixon, and my next door neighbor was a real solid Democrat, but he kept telling me why he was going to vote for Nixon, and it was all because Kennedy was a Catholic and he just wouldn't face up to it. When you have a religious type belief or a prejudice, you're not subject to rational thinking. The cost factor, the thing that stopped the power plants in the Tennessee Valley, which was that the electric rates were going up because the cost overruns of the nuclear plants. And so when the bill for replacing the steam generators at San Onofre are added to the bill that's going to be required if they make it strong enough to withstand the next earthquake, and the bill that will be required if they have to put in cooling towers because the State Water Resources Board won't let them keep sucking all the water out of the ocean and killing fish. When all those bills add up, I think we'll be able to show that it's uneconomic. And I don't think that it's possible for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to ever change its habits of being mainly a puppy dog rather than a watchdog, because it's influenced by the industry. And matter of fact, you don't get confirmed nowadays to be on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission unless you, quote, believe in nuclear power. They can't just charge it to the ratepayers. We do have regulatory commissions at the state level whose job it is to protect the ratepayer, and that's where the fight has to be waged. And there has to be a good deal more interest in what happens at the State Public Utility Commission than has taken place in the past, because most environmental organizations have not gotten their hands dirty with the hard job of putting in evidence before a regulatory commission to show that these costs are just going up. And of course, thus far, the old plants have not had additional costs. Fukushima is a wake-up call, and we have to realize that just because a dog is sleeping doesn't mean it isn't going to wake up and bite you. It's not just the nuclear reactor itself, but all of the spent fuel, all of the nuclear trash that has piled up for 30 years. People don't realize the trash man, the federal trash man, never came. And if you can imagine in your backyard, your trash piling up for 30 years, that's the situation at just about every one of these nuclear power plants. But it's especially dangerous at San Onofre and Diablo Canyon, because these are plants that are near earthquake faults. And the utilities haven't spent the money to take them out of a swimming pool and put them in a dry concrete cask where they'll be a little bit more impregnable and can withstand earthquakes. The problem at a nuclear power plant is not just the reactor itself, but it's the fact that the nuclear trash, the spent, they call it spent fuel, but it's really what remains after the uranium is used to make electricity. And it's full of radioactivity. That trash has been piling up ever since the reactor started in 1980 at San Onofre. So you got 30 years of nuclear trash. The whole idea was the federal government was supposed to come along and take it and put it underground somewhere. The problem is that they haven't found a safe place to put it. You know why? Because there isn't any safe place on this earth to put stuff that's going to be radioactive for 1,000,000 years. So we have a moral dilemma. We are making radioactive material every time we generate electricity that we don't know where to put it, and where it's going to remain highly poisonous for almost eternity. Now, to my mind, if you're religious in any faith, that is a moral question. What right do we have to contaminate this Earth of ours and the inhabitants of it almost forever. I mean, I would hope that this is the kind of birth control that everybody could agree on.